All right, so I think we're on now. Let me get this thing going on Facebook real quick. There's a bunch of buttons you have to click. So.
Welcome everyone. Ben's going to get us started here in a second. We're just connecting to Facebook so we can live stream it there for people want to watch.
Yeah, I guess we can go around and just mention what you, I think, you know, what everybody does, I guess, real quick. Just, we could start with Cara. Just mention who you work for, I guess.
Sure. My name is Cara Braeutigam. I work for the Canadian Camping and RV Council. We have over 800, I believe, members across the country. I also used to own a 200-site RV park just outside of Calgary, Alberta.
Go ahead, Irene. You want to go?
Hi, I'm Irene Jones. I work with Marshall & Sterling Campground Insurance. We're a brokerage that writes insurance for parks across the U.S. The program was founded with a campground owner who I talk to every day, so I'm always involved with campground owners. Previous to working at Marshall & Sterling, I worked for a national carrier and on the children's camp side. So I've been in outdoor insurance for a long time.
Chris?
Chris Rademacher. We own the Des Moines West KOA Holiday, and most recently I'm also working for KOA in their franchise development department. We've had our park for 9 years, and looking forward to sharing some ideas today.
Awesome. Joanne?
Joann DelVescio, and I'm the Executive Director of the New Jersey Campground Owners and Outdoor Lodging Association. So we represent all the privately owned campgrounds in New Jersey. And luckily for us, there are about 100 campgrounds in New Jersey, and 96 of them are members of our association. So although we are small, we certainly do have most of the campgrounds in New Jersey who are part of the association and are active participants in the association.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Well,
Ben?
Yeah, Ben Quiggle. I edit Woodalls Magazine, Woodalls Campground Management Magazine. We also run WCM.com, and we do a variety of different things. We report news information in the campground RV park sectors. We also cover some news in the RV industry. So
I'm Brian Searl. We do marketing for about 200 campgrounds across the United States. Just kind of here to help give advice and talk back and forth. And so this is going to be a regular thing. But Ben, before we start on that, tell them the rules and how they can participate and what we kind of hope from this.
Yeah, we should have like a Q&A section available. We have for people who want to ask questions. We have we're obviously recording on Facebook Live as well, so we'll be monitoring that page for anybody who leaves questions there. You know, if there should be a 20-second delay or so between the Zoom and Facebook Live, so if you're trying to watch both, it may be a little bit choppy with the audio, so you may want to turn off audio on one of your devices, just so it doesn't give you a headache. And then I think, you know, we're just going to have a general discussion with people, and there's going to be lots of time for questions and answers, and we're going to be, you know, answering some of those questions throughout the webinar. I think Brian could talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I think our goal with, you know, when Ben and I were first starting about, you know, talking about this, and it's going to be me, Ben, Cara on a regular basis, and we're going to kind of rotate out some of these different people. But I think our goal with this long term is to focus on the industry and different topics that matter to you guys and just kind of evolve it over time. Our hope is for this to be more of like a radio show / podcast type format than it is a webinar where somebody talks and then stops and then somebody else talks. And so we want it to be entertaining, and we want it to involve you guys. And so there's a raised hands feature, I think, down on the bottom that you guys can see. If you want to ask a question to anybody who's participating, just raise your hand, or there's a Q&A box where you can ask. We want this to be interactive throughout. And so while the topics will continue to change over time, I think by its very nature, we're going to start by talking about the topic that's on everyone's minds. We've been dealing with it for well over a month now. And last night there was a big announcement about it too, and that is the Michael Jordan documentary on ESPN that everybody's been talking about that finally aired the first. Is that okay? That's not it. Is that what we were talking about, Ben?
No, I don't think so.
All right. Well, let's just start with Joanne then, while I regroup and gather, and we figure out what we're really going to talk about. Joanne is the executive director of the Jersey Campground Association. Joanne, tell us a little bit about what is on all of our minds here and what's going on in New Jersey specifically.
Well, New Jersey, unfortunately, we are in a situation where our numbers are continuing to climb every day as far as the number of cases that are being positive. And a lot of that has to do with there's more testing that's been available. But, New Jersey's also, we're a small state. We're only 150 miles from north to south. And we are a bedroom community for New York City and for Philadelphia. And we're finding that most of our cases are outside of those areas, those market areas like northeast New Jersey and kind of southwest New Jersey. So it's really putting a hamper on the governor considering, letting businesses begin to open because, our numbers on Friday and Saturday were down and then they spiked quite a lot yesterday. So, the governor continues to have that stay-at-home mandate in place until further notice. We've got a state of emergency and a state of public health emergency in effect through May the 9th. So, we're trying to get the campgrounds open. The campgrounds can have essential workers in them right now, and we are putting a fair number of medical personnel in the campgrounds who are traveling into the state of New Jersey to help out in some of our hospitals where the virus has been really a hot spot. And we also have a lot of medical personnel who are looking to isolate from their families because they're still continuing to work, but yet they need to isolate away from their families. So we are trying to work with it's called the RVs for MDs group as much as we can to put people where they need to be. And we had a fair amount of people who had already left their Florida homes or their homes down south would come into New Jersey before the governor put his mandates in place about stay at home. So, we're working as much as we can. We send the governor a letter at least once a week asking for him to allow the seasonal people to return to the campgrounds. I do provide an update almost every single day to the members, trying to get as much information out there as I can to them about webinars that are available. We certainly put a lot of information out there about the CARES Act and the funding that was available, the loan programs that were available. Our New Jersey Economic Development Authority has a fair number of programs that were available to them. So we're really just trying to communicate with the members as much as we can. The campgrounds are allowed to be open for campers, for the campground owners to have their staff in place. So, we keep saying, continue to work, be prepared to open once the governor gives the okay for everyone to open so that you'll be able to, have the campground ready and prepared. But that's what's happening in New Jersey right now.
Wow.
So what are you, go ahead, Ben, sorry.
I don't think you have any time to sleep, do you? So
honest to God, Ben, it's been every day I think, over this past weekend, I thought, Saturday and Sunday, maybe it'll be quiet. We had an issue with the prosecutor's office on Saturday, and it just continued all day Saturday into Saturday night and all day yesterday. So there hasn't been a whole lot of downtime, but it'll come.
So here's something that I'm curious about, Joanne. What is and maybe you want to answer this, maybe you don't, but what is your sense as you talk to the campground owners? I know we're advocating for them to be open. They need income, they need seasonal guests, all those kinds of things, and people need a place to go to. But what is your sense talking to these owners of who actually wants to open versus, does that make sense, what I'm asking?
Yeah, I would say most of the campgrounds are ready to welcome their seasonal campers back. They're not ready to open up their cabins or for transients coming in for a weekend or overnight, but they're seasonals who are there, long-term, that come in for 6 months at a time. I do believe that most of them, not everybody, are ready to welcome them back. Now, it's also going to be a campground that's going to look much different than what they're used to. I don't see them opening up bathhouses. You know, we have a
Right.
social distancing and a no gathering mandate in place. So, you know, they're not going to be able to have events or anything anytime soon. You know, so, you know, go to the campground. You might be able to ride your bike. You can probably go down and do some fishing, walking, hiking, those kinds of things. But it is going to be different when these people start going back to the campground until, you know, the governor determines what his orders are going to be going forward.
Do you think that seasonals in general, obviously different people are different, but do you think seasonals in general will abide by all these regulations when they're finally allowed to come camping?
Well, I think, well, two things. One is if the mandates are still in place, it's going to be up to the campground owner to enforce those mandates. I mean, they're going to have to enforce the social distancing and the no gathering mandate. So it's going to be, you know, on the campground owner or the campground manager to be able
Right.
to,
Yep.
you know,
Police it,
enforce
basically.
those rules. And I think, you know, I think people may be hesitant too about, you know, I mean, obviously campgrounds, that was the big thing about campgrounds. They're a big community. People like to gather together. But I think that people understand that for the time being that, you know, these are put in place in order to help us so that we can get open now and we're not dealing with this again in July or August or September. So, you know, I think it behooves everyone to continue to follow the orders that are being put forth from the governor's office.
Ben, I'm sure you have a couple questions
I
that you've
know
heard.
from a marketing aspect, what are you guys doing to keep kind of camping in front of the New Jersey campers or your campers, I guess? Are you doing anything on Facebook or anything like that to just kind of keep it in the front of their mind?
Oh, a couple things. One is, like 2 weeks ago, I said to all of the campground owners when things were really getting crazy, why don't you put positive pictures out about your campgrounds, the good times, you know,
Yeah.
let your campers see, tell your campers to be posting on your website and your Facebook pages, you know, fun times, the good times, the memories that are happening. And, you know, the same thing that we're doing at the office. I mean, we paused most of our advertising so that the message we continue to put out there is we're going to be ready when you're ready to come back or when we're ready to open. You know, come and enjoy. Campgrounds are, you know, their workers are there. They're getting ready for you to welcome you back when they're there, when it's ready for you to come back. So we're just trying to be as positive. We're not like kind of in your face, come to New Jersey, come camping. We're just trying to be very subtle in our messages that we're sending out to the campers. And, you know, we have a database of about 10,000 names from people who emails we've collected over the years who've set requesting for our guidebooks. And so that's, you know, we've only sent 2 out in the last month, but those are just kind of what we're saying. I will tell you the request for the guidebook is still coming in. So we're still mailing the guidebook as long as the requests continue to come in. Our guidebook is still being mailed out.
Irene, Chris, Cara, I guess you guys any comments? I guess I would.
Hey, Joanne, I had a question for you. Governor Murphy in New Jersey, when this started happening, he told people to do not go to their Jersey Shore homes because they didn't have the medical infrastructure for people to go there and then get sick. And to kind of make an analogy for people from across the country, I grew up in New Jersey, as Joanne knows, so I know the region well. But you know, many of the campgrounds are out in the rural areas and down in the coastal areas, naturally for recreation. And, you know, a lot of, you know, the hospitals and the medical infrastructure is heavier towards the more populated areas in the cities. So are you getting any sense from the governor of the ramping up of the medical facilities down the shore and out in the country to support the increase in population from having campers out there? Have you gotten any feedback?
No, I mean, most of our campgrounds begin to open April 1st. So really, it's Memorial Day weekend when the influx of visitors, whether they're campers or just visitors, really start to hit the shore areas and the areas that have, you know, the amusement parks, the great adventures and those around. So, you know, we're starting to come up on some of those dates and the hospitals will begin to ramp up for them. But it definitely was an issue in the beginning because along our coast, so many of our coastal properties are second homeowners. And so the request was, please do not go to your second home because the hospitals are not geared up for the increased influx of visitors. Now, let me tell you, it probably hasn't stopped them. I mean, when I'm in one of those areas where, we continue to see the cars that are coming down, from the different areas, but, we're maintaining, the interesting part of it is that, like I said, most of where the hot spots seem to really be northeast New Jersey outside of New York City. And, we don't have a campground within probably 45 minutes to an hour away from those areas, because that's the highly densely populated area of New Jersey. There's no campgrounds up in those areas anyway. But those are the people who are looking to get away from those areas and come to their second homes, their vacation homes. And so that was one of the reasons why the stay-at-home mandate is still in place until further notice. But people are still, people are still traveling. But especially this week and last week, it was school break. And although some of the students, some of the schools continue to have school during these past 2 weeks instead of being on a school break because they knew that the kids were going to be home anyway. But we did see a fair amount of people traveling in New Jersey.
So, and that brings up a good point, though. I mean, vacation homes, but seasonal people at campgrounds too. I mean, whereas there's a difference between somebody coming and staying for 6 months versus going back and forth every weekend, right?
Well, and that's one of the things that the governor was very concerned about, was that, you're coming down for the weekend and then you're going back home and then into an area where it may be a hot spot, and you're coming back down again into areas where there is not a lot of positive cases. So you're bringing it back and forth. So, although the mayors of the coastal communities are all saying that they were not able to, stop anybody at the bridge from coming in, the campgrounds are still under the governor's orders that we cannot open for vacationing for recreational purposes. We are allowed to have, like I said, essential workers and essential personnel in the campgrounds, but we are lobbying to get the seasonals allowed to come back into the campgrounds. The campgrounds have contracts with them. Most of them started April the 1st. So, there's a financial impact that's going to start to happen on the campground owners. And, some campground owners are not going to be able to sustain, having to refund all of, the money for the seasonal campers. So, we're saying to the governor, let's let the seasonals in, similar to what's happening along the coast. Again, we're not looking to open up for transients and overnights or weekenders, but for the people that we know come to a campground and stay at the campground, we are certainly petitioning the governor right now to allow that to happen.
So I think go ahead, Ben. Sorry.
Yeah, I think one of the most frustrating parts for campground owners, and I imagine for state executives too, is just the amount of change that keeps happening. I know, they say one thing, then and a few days later,
changes every hour, even sometimes.
Yeah, it's like, so what's that been like in New Jersey?
No, it's not even the change; it's the interpretation. I mean, every county is interpreting the governor's orders differently. And that's where the issue comes from. I mean, we were on the phone with our solicitor this morning, and we're saying, we're trying to get clarification so that everybody in all 21 counties, well, there's 21 counties in New Jersey, but I only have campgrounds in 12 counties, so that we're all speaking the same language when we're putting these information out to the campground owners, that it isn't different from county to county. So that's been probably one of the biggest frustrations that we've had, is just the interpretation of, the executive orders that are coming out, the administrative orders that are coming out. So we're working on trying to get clarification.
And I think that's kind of a problem that's across the, all of North America, right? I mean, Cara, what are you seeing up there?
Yeah, very much the same. Interpretation is a massive issue. I think governing bodies are kind of hesitant to make too many specific regulatory statements because of how fluid things are, but then that leaves a lot of kind of gray area for interpretations to be different. I think it depends on the region for sure. Some of our provinces have issued closure orders for campgrounds right now, and others are allowing operations depending on a health region inspection. So then, you have issues where one inspector in one county has interpreted the rules this way, and then the health inspector in the county next door doesn't. So I've got campgrounds that are, 30 minutes apart, and one's allowed to be open and one isn't. So it's a significant hurdle right now. We need to get to a point where everybody's kind of more on the same page, and we can make clear specifications, because we're seeing now in those instances, campers are wanting to get out because they're hearing that parks are open, but then other parks are closed, and so they're receiving pressure from consumers to open, and it just kind of creates a snowball of issues.
No, I think that's going to be the same thing we see down here. Is some states are open, some are closed, and some. I mean, in some cases, there's parks that are right across the state border, where one's open and one will be open and one will be closed. And then you're going to get the campers complaining, well, why is their pool open? Why is their activities open? Why aren't you? Yeah, it's a whole.
But that's why communicating for your individual park, I think, is so important. And you've been sharing a lot of good ideas on that, Brian, but letting them know where you stand in particular. And, I've had campground owners talk to me and say, I'm just not going to follow these rules. And I'm like, oh my goodness, you need to follow the rules. You're putting yes, you're putting everything at risk. Please follow you don't have to like them, but you're putting.
And you would think you wouldn't have to teach common sense, but
common sense often needs to be reinforced, because people are, as Joanne said, she said something very important. People are really upset. People are scared about losing their businesses, but you're not going to save your business by opening when you shouldn't be open. And then your neighbor is going to turn you in. The state police are going to come out, and then you're going to be shut down. It's going to look bad for the whole industry. You're going to, that's the type of stuff we don't want to see. I think most people do get it, but it's worth saying.
And it blows up quickly. Like, I mean, I've talked about it on the ARVIC webinar too, where we've had, not campgrounds that we work for, but we've seen campgrounds get 600 comments on a Facebook thread where 50% are for open and 50% are against. And they've had sheriffs show up at the campground because of a Facebook post that somebody said there was New York families there. Like, it quickly gets out of control.
But we've also seen some really good instances of the local officials standing up for campground owners. They'll get complaints and they'll be like, no, the campground's important. They're doing full-time RVers. They have working nurses there. It's an essential service. So that's been really great to see too. I guess, Chris, as a park owner, what's it been like just having to deal with the constant change, I guess?
So Iowa in particular was a little later to the game on the stay-at-home orders. We're probably because of population density, but we do have a stay-at-home order now through April 30th.
I think he froze.
For us, it's been, we've been open.
I think it's you, Ben. I can hear him.
Yes, residents, and then also essential travelers. So medical professionals, people that absolutely need to get home from, down south to their northern home, northern residence, or their normal place that they're going to stay for the summer. And so we've had a few instances where people have tried to self-police inside of the park, and I quickly, nip that in the butt, with just a quick email to all the on-site folks to let them know that we're on top of, the situation. Here's the parameters. Communication for us has been critical. We feel that's really important right now. So we've communicated both to our arrivals before April 30th, and then also to our reservations that are after May 1st, and just let them know what things are looking like as of right now. And we plan to do that on a regular basis, just to keep people abreast of what's happening, because it is ever changing. And so it's not been too bad for us in particular, as a franchisee. So, I think it's going to progressively get, more and more active that way, as we get more and more guests, as things start to open up a little bit more, and what that looks like, I'm not sure.
What are you seeing from KOA as you deal with all the different states and all the different, is there something that you're seeing from KOA that you can share with us as far as maybe ways to make it more cohesive, or are things the same out there across the country? Are they different?
It seems to be that most of the stay-at-home orders outside of a select few number of states that have, sort of shut things down completely, most stay-at-home orders have left parks the ability to cater to residents, so long-term, monthly type guests, and then also to essential travelers, medical workers. KOA has recently partnered with the RVs for MDs program, which is an exciting program. I think somebody else mentioned earlier.
Yep.
It's really, really unique. So KOA franchisees have the opportunity to donate a site if they prefer to. It's an opt-in program, but I think most people are doing it, which is really exciting to see that. And then also, obviously, the RVs that people donate themselves as owners to these medical professionals. So we're doing that. There's
just
also
really quickly, like, tell us a little bit about the RVs for MDs for the people who don't know.
So it's a program somebody just came up with on Facebook, and it's exploded. It's just a program that connects RV owners with medical professionals that are trying to self-quarantine themselves from their families, so to speak, so that everybody stays healthy. And so they're parking them at their own houses if they have a place to plug them in, okay. Or they now with the partnership with KOA. They can park at a KOA campground nearby, and the site could be comped as well as the rig. So it's really kind of a cool program to help medical professionals that are fighting this on the front line to keep everybody as safe as possible. So it's really cool.
Is there? Go ahead, Ben. Sorry.
I think one of the cool things about this, virus, I guess if there is a cool thing, is just about how the industry has really come together and how people are coming up with these inventive ideas like RVs for MDs. I know like Florida Association is they've kind of partnered where they're giving away free sites to people, medical workers who need them. I think they have like 64 parks taking part in that program. So it's just really neat to see. I guess, as parks look to reopen or open for the first time, or maybe take in more campers as the economy reopens, what are some things you guys are telling people about, how they should prepare their park, guidelines, social distancing, keeping their cabins clean? What are some things you guys are hearing on that level, I guess?
Well, so I want to get to that in one sec, Ben, but I just had one quick question for Cara. Cara, what are you seeing up there in Canada with RVs for MDs or similar program? Is there anything initiative like that going on to help medical workers?
Yeah, there's several RV dealerships are offering up RVs kind of wherever. We've got in all of the provinces as far as I'm aware. The RV Dealers Association is working closely with their members to help facilitate any need they're seeing. At this point, the majority of our campgrounds are still closed, either under order or because the season hasn't started yet. But definitely there are healthcare workers parking those RVs in their driveways and things like that so that they can isolate from their own families. Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah.
Guys, Ben's question.
I guess, Joanne, are you telling have you done anything on the campground owner side as far as what they should be doing at their parks as far as social distancing, cleaning, things like that?
Well, we've certainly been telling them they need to follow the CDC guidelines as far as cleaning and sanitizing. And, Patrick from Hydrophage, his name just went right out of my head. We did a webinar with him, right? I think when this first started, and he went on and he was talking about what it is you need to do to prepare your campground to be ready to open. And I do think that's one of the reasons why some of the campgrounds are hesitant about opening up their cabins and their bathhouses, is because there is a fair amount of work that's going to need to be done in order to continue to sanitize and maintain those units. And so for the seasonals that are coming in, they can in their own self-contained unit that has their own bathroom and kitchen and all of that, so they don't really need to be able to use any of the public spaces in a campground. So but campgrounds are, we continue to send them the information from the CDC as to what it is they're supposed to be doing, and the campgrounds will, I'm sure, be following all the information that's being presented to them.
Do you think
Mike,
this is
real quick, just Mike Gass mentioned that the RVs for MDs also they're also doing their program in Canada. So Canadians can also look that up through Facebook too. So go ahead.
nice? Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. I think he's on still. So
Yeah.
One of the things I will tell you about the RVs for MDs, and I've said this to a lot of them, is I think it's great that people are donating their campers for people. But, one of the things we've told everybody in New Jersey is, it's great that you want to park it in your driveway, but you really need to be very careful because, it's not as easy as just plugging that unit into an outlet outside of the house. And where are you getting your water from? Is it coming from a hose, and how are you dumping? And so, if you do decide to park it, in your driveway or in your backyard, you need to make sure that you've got an electrician or somebody who's making sure that, you can plug in, safely, and that you can, get your tanks emptied when they need to be. And, for us in New Jersey, a lot of municipalities, you're not allowed to have your campers parked in your driveway or on the road. So you need to make sure that you're getting your municipalities okay to do this. And, if you can't cross some of those hurdles, please note that the campgrounds are there for you to be able to for you to utilize them. So if that is an issue that is happening with some of these, with some of these people who are parking in their driveways.
well, and I think that what KOA is doing, what Arvic's doing, what other state organizations are doing,
Yeah.
Canada's doing, I think that's helping to funnel people away from those situations too, which is great.
Brian, one of the things that people have to be aware of, though, if you're going to have these great programs at your campground, is to make sure you have procedures in place for the eventuality that some of the medical personnel may become sick themselves. And I was
True.
talking to one of my parks who's outside of a major city in the Northeast who had just that thing happen. And so, we had a good conversation, and I said, just make sure that you're letting the county public health know that in this case, it was, I believe it was a physician's assistant, that she felt that she had COVID-19. She hadn't taken the test, but I said, you have to report it to the county public health, because there's going to be a big surge in this contact tracing, all the people that person has talked to. So then for the campground owner, that means definitely do these programs, but make sure you have procedures in place as to where people are going to be able to go in your campground. Like, are they going to go in the campground store, or are you going to deliver to them? How are you going to handle it once they become ill? Can they still stay in their RV? In this case, I thought the park owner did a great job of, like, they said, anything that you need, we'll go to the store and get for you. We'll just put it on your credit card. We'll drop it off. We'll call you once a day to check in on you. So they were able to help support the quarantine and help support the mission in that way. But it's just part of what is naturally going to happen.
Irene, do you see, like, as we move forward in insurance specifically, do you see this changing the way policies are not only written, but some of the things that you require from people as part of their policies?
Yes. I've been having conversations with several carriers, and one of the conversation was like, hey, we want to tell you that our campground owners have gross receipts that are quite a bit lower. And they said, that's okay. Let us know as your campground owners tell you, but also let us know if the RV parks are becoming like full-blown medical camps, if that's what they're going to wind up converting to, because it's a different exposure than recreational campground. So I think that that's the first indication that I've had. Now, mostly what I hear, the RVs for MDs program is not having one park becoming like a full-blown camp for it's all doctors and nurses. Right. But so I'm not really seeing that trend, but certainly if it converts over, it's something that you want to talk to your insurance person about, just to let them know that the occupancy is different.
Does it become more of a liability long-term if you have, let's say when we all get back to normal, right, or whatever the new normal is, does it become more of a liability then from a standpoint if there's X number of people above a threshold in an activities room or in a pool or whatever, if insurance covers this? I know it's a hypothetical. That's what we're doing, right? It's all opinion. It's recorded, and we'll call you on it later, Irene, but not yet. So.
If insurance covers this is when I started laughing, right? So insurance may cover it based on the situation, right? It could be, just kind of depends on what the situation is. I think what you want to make sure is that you have procedures in place that you are following consistently. So Joanne talked a lot about cleaning procedures. And I think that Patrick Hardy from Hydrophy is an excellent stand-up resource, and his Disaster Hawk app is great for people to use. And he had really good feedback on cleaning procedures. And we have a COVID-19 toolkit that we developed at Marshall & Sterling that is open access to the public, that you can use links to go to the CDC for cleaning procedures, that you can use links to go and figure out what the state, the national, the local, the essential service designation is for your county, and make your rules based on all of those things. But you need to make your rules and apply them consistently, make your employee procedures and apply them consistently. Because if you don't, then you're really opening yourself up for lawsuits of either discrimination, or if you just are like, hey, I don't want to do this. I've seen some posts online where campground owners are like, I don't want to babysit. You know what? You need to put procedures in place so that you don't want to operate in a negligent manner. And the way that Joanne is describing everything is exactly the professional way that we want to see park owners operate.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a document put together for our staff that outlines all of these things specifically for our staff operations, and then also our guests receive a document as well upon arrival, so that they know how we're handling things, so that we have it in writing. There's somewhat of a paper trail in case something were to come up, and I think it's important that we don't go about this haphazardly, for sure.
How have the guests received that from you when you've given it to them? Have they been really receptive, Chris?
They have. It outlines a variety of different things, but what's open at the park, mostly is closed, right now through the stay-at-home orders. But that document will be a living, breathing thing as things begin to progressively open up. But the reception's been really good. I know when our emails went out to our reservations, it was the highest open rates of any email I'd ever sent out at 80, I think it was 87%. So, it's about double what it normally is. So I think people are very attentive to not wanting to know what's going on at the parks. And I think it's important that we continue to communicate what is happening, so that we can instill, when the time comes, some confidence in their ability to make reservations again in the future. So I think that's critical. It's on us to make that happen, I think, somewhat.
What do you think changes long-term, Chris, from you as an owner? If you start to think about that, like, just let's say we open all back up on May 1st or June 1st or whenever we open up, right? Are there things that you will inherently change and decide on your own, regardless of whether a governor or anybody else orders you to?
Yeah, I think it's our bread and butter. It's our livelihood, as an owner, is to make sure that we're providing an area that people can feel comfortable staying at. When it comes to we have 22 or 20 accommodations, that I think we're going to get hit fairly hard there without conveying. So I think it's important for us to convey that here's our cleaning procedures. Maybe even somebody mentioned yesterday in our 20 group that we should maybe even make a video that shows our people cleaning our cabins, so that they know they're getting sterilized properly for the next guest, and kind of put those parameters out there. I think they said that maybe Delta did that on their airplanes, made a video for it, and it was pretty impactful. So stuff like that, that conveys confidence to our guests, and there's going to be a lot of changes, I think. I mean, this is, we've got a lot of amenities around the park, and most KOAs do have a bunch of things where people are close together. How we manage that, and are we cutting the number of people that we allow in a particular amenity? So we're policing that, potentially. I don't know what it looks like yet, but it could be a pretty big change across the board, I would think.
Cara, I guess on your end, what are your campground owners, I guess, dealing with on that front? I guess, are they, what's it look like long-term for them in Canada, I guess?
Again, it kind of tends to depend on the region. We have such different regulations and requirements depending on what province and even county you're in. Certain areas of the country are already working to kind of a phased approach. So their phase one might be kind of keeping all of those, currently all of the public facilities, bathrooms, playground structures, pools, all of that stuff is required to be closed in any parks that are open. So phase one, they're talking about maintaining those closures and maybe opening parks up to accepting 50% capacity or something like that, as well as asking guests to maybe travel a bit closer to home, not quite going so far. I don't know how you police that. I from a campground owner perspective, I struggle to wrap my brain around how that would be monitored.
Enforceable.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think slowly, I frankly think it's going to impact the entire season as we move forward through those phases, and they're going to be kind of fluid in their delivery dates, I think, based on how things are going in terms of numbers and how this outbreak, whether it continues to kind of exponentially grow here. There's going to be a ton of factors, but slow and steady, I think, is the basic strategy at this point.
I think what will be interesting, and I've heard parks they're only allowed to let in a certain percentage of people. They can't remain. I think that'll be interesting as that develops, as the economy reopens, because that'll have a huge impact on owners too. Sure, they'll be open, but if you're only at 50%, obviously you're losing the other 50%. So that'll be interesting. Hopefully the campground owners can get to 100% here pretty soon. So.
Yeah, it's gonna have.
I don't think it's necessary.
Oh, sorry, Chris.
Go ahead, Cara.
I was just gonna say it's gonna definitely have an impact on revenue, which will trickle down to, staffing and the types of amenities and things that maybe you can offer based on budgetary constraints because you only have 50% capacity. I don't see it being a quick turnaround here, but I'm hopeful we can start down the road soon.
Yeah.
I don't know. My opinion is campgrounds in general, from a social distancing standpoint, are big enough. The spaces are wide enough that social distancing is almost a natural thing. Where I think we're going to see a little bit bigger hit is our ancillary sales and ancillary incomes, our store incomes, our areas that we have shut down, whether they're amenities, if we have wristband programs, different things like that are more challenging. How to functionally do safe social distancing organized activities that are a big draw for a lot of parks. I think we're going to see a lot of change there on ancillary income, but not necessarily from an occupancy standpoint. I think people, my impression and our impression from KOA even is once things start to roll, I believe that there's going to be a fairly big, pent up demand for getting out and being in the outdoors safely and,
Agree. Yep.
Get back to normal as quick as possible.
Joanne, I guess on your front, have you had any conversations with officials that talk about maybe opening parks slowly, like putting restrictions on occupancy limits, I guess, at the parks?
No, we really haven't talked about, only opening up for 50%. I mean, like I said, right now the push is to get the seasonals open and, wait and see. Again, because we are in a state where we're so small and we have, we're the number 2 state in the country with the amount of positive cases that, it's probably going to take us a little bit longer, to get some of our parks opened. But, again, if we do seasonals first and then see what happens as the number of cases begin to decline, hopefully we'll be able to start opening up, for the transients who come in with their own self-contained unit. I think if, first we have those that are seasonals, then the next group would be for those that are traveling that are in their own self-contained unit that only want to come in for a week or a weekend. And then I think down the road, maybe the cabins and cottages will open and whatever other outdoor lodging that is available. And, some campground owners may not even want to open up their cabins this summer. They may not be able to make, like I said, handle with the amount of staff that they have, the cleaning and the maintenance that's going to be required. So I think it's really just, we really just have to take our time, and this is going to have to play out as the next few weeks and few months go. And, we can all sit here on September 30th and hopefully get back together again and say, well, this is what happened, and, we all got through this, and this has passed, and, we're moving on. But I think for right now, we're really just in a wait and see. We're hoping that our numbers are gonna start decreasing. But like I said, they decreased for 2 days, and then yesterday they spiked again for us in New Jersey.
I think it's really important to be flexible, though. I mean, you get into a position where if you keep, as just a citizen, if you keep saying like in 15 days we're going to open up, and then the numbers start to be worse, as Joanne's mentioning in New Jersey, it can be very disheartening. But if you keep a mindset of, I'm going to find a way to adapt and be flexible as it goes along, and Joanne and Chris gave several examples of that. Different regions might adapt in different ways. You might take those cabins in New Jersey and say, you know what, there's a demand for a seasonal cabin rental, and I've never done that before, but I'm going to do that now because that's a way for me to have income. Just use that as an example, like staying flexible and taking it one day at a time, and adapting so that mentally you can overcome this. If don't set yourself up too much to that you're going to snap your fingers and it's all going to be better, because that might just be too overwhelming when it doesn't work out that way. It's going to come in inches.
I've never owned an RV park or campground. So, just the scope of things that park owners have to be concerned about and what they're missing out on. I learn new things every day. So like what Chris mentioned, the ancillary sales, not only are park owners losing the site, rentals and the camper nights, but they're also losing, all those potential sales at their camp stores, or, if they sell tickets for activities. So, I mean, it's just incredible, just the scope. And, hopefully a lot of the park owners are able to kind of get back to normal here soon and be able to keep their parks open. So.
But Ben, to use the camp store as an example, I talked to one park owner who converted their camp store to pickup only, and she had the ability to also cook meals for people. So you could order stuff from the camp store. You could order lasagna for dinner. You could then go ahead and also order like a pack of like beef and vegetables to make stew for later, and get your eggs and your milk and your toilet paper. So that's a good example of someone adapting, letting people know what was available, having delivery in a different way. And she was able to make up some of the other lost income by having that revenue. And also it kept people out of the local towns buying the groceries at the supermarket. So, I mean, that's what I mean by like, just try to keep thinking outside the box and think about Chris has a smart idea. This other person has a smarter idea. Use them all and adapt to what works where you are.
I think you're right. I mean, the campground owners are going to have to be creative. And I can tell you that here in New Jersey, one of the things that we were hearing from some of the restaurant owners was that, some of their business, especially the ones right by the campground, are off by 30% because there are no campers in the campgrounds. So, the economic impact is not just on the campground only, but the surrounding businesses in the communities are also being really affected by not having folks in the campgrounds.
I see we got a question on.
Hold on, Ben. Let's actually unmute Margaret and let her ask it. So I unmuted her. Margaret, you want to go ahead and ask your question?
Sure. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, so I have been on the ARVC calls, and I thought, what an amazing job they've done in kind of having a consistent message out to all the governors and working consistently and trying to make things essential. So I'm wondering, is ARVC working with the state campground associations to develop kind of the next communication, education strategy, saying, okay, let's make sure you allow our seasonals, and then is the next phase going to be, okay, let's see if we can get the governors to think about opening for transients. Is there any sort of national initiative going on to kind of move to the next focus area for campgrounds? Thank you.
So Ben, do you think probably Joanne? Have you worked with Arvik on that, or?
I can tell you that we've talked to Arvik, but every state is different, and I don't know that there can be like a national lobbying effort. I mean, I think we're all talking the same thing, but for what we're saying to our governor and the timelines that we're talking may be different than what's happening in Iowa or Idaho or somewhere else. I mean, so as an individual, as our association, my contact has really been with our government officials, whether it's our senators, our assemblymen, the governor, whomever. But we're working with them directly on our own.
I know, I spoke with Karen Redford from Go RVing on Friday evening, and she just mentioned that they're working with Arvik, the RV Industry Association, the Dealers Association, just kind of on making a cohesive marketing campaign. But she also mentioned that, it's going to be difficult because it's all very localized. The reopening the economy is going to be happening different in one region than the next region, or different county than another county, and how they're refocusing at a hyper kind of local level marketing effort, and how they're going to be getting in touch with state association leaders and the National Association of RV Parks and Campgrounds, and putting together a cohesive campaign. But they're still in that working stages of that. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out from area to area. Obviously, there's going to be different messages that they need to get out in certain areas compared to other areas. You may be able to go camping in one area and not in another. So it'll be interesting to see how they make that all work.
So I think that the national associations absolutely need to be, lobbying for everyone, but I don't know that the message, and I mean, I think the message needs to be the same. I just think that the states association and the states themselves really have to be dealing with their local officials because each state, is very different in their needs right now.
So I want to. Go ahead, Ben. Sorry.
It's going to take a collaborative effort. Everyone needs to talk with each other. And, the industry's been so great at working together through this so far. With the marketing stuff too.
So I just wanted to throw this question to Chris here, and I'm going to unmute Mike and Nicole, who are on the call too, to let them chime in if they want. But just what are you guys seeing? We talked about Arvik from a KOA perspective. Can you guys chime in on that? I mean, either Mike or Nicole, you guys are unmuted, but Chris, if you want to just answer it too.
Yeah, I mean, KOA is working diligently to make sure that, they're contacting, I mean, all the way up to Toby. They are working very hard with the local government agencies all across every state. They're keeping us up to date as franchisees as to what's happening in each of the states. Individually, as far as the stay-at-home order stipulations, they're getting clarification on those stipulations. I think one of the big advantages of being involved with KOA is having this network of people at the corporate office that really we don't have to worry about that. So it's a big deal to me, even though I focus a lot of my time on that as well. I think it's nice to have that in the background working for us to make sure that not only for KOAs, but for the industry in general. They're working with Arvik, they're working with the state associations as well, and really trying to make an impact here so that we can get opened, and if not fully opened, open partially, so that we can get some revenue coming in to make it through this time.
Yeah, this is Mike Gast. I'd echo what Chris said. We've spent a lot of time, Toby spent the majority of our time those first couple of weeks working with those governor's offices and those state offices to get them to understand what a campground is actually providing out there. And I did several interviews last week with everybody from the Wall Street Journal on down to the local level, trying to explain that we have right now it's not leisure camping right now. It's taking care of those folks that are out there trapped a little bit. With if you get a campground or a governor's office that says everybody out of a campground, you've created this affluent homeless crowd that has nowhere to put these beautiful rigs they've got because they're full timers. And so the game for us is to take care of them first, and we're having meetings all week long on our management level to try and stage our reopening strategy. And we'll share what we can along the way, because we know that it's that classic lift all boats strategy where we want camping to come back in a big way, not just KOA camping. Obviously, we have a obligation to our franchisees to make sure that they get what they need, but it's going to be very difficult because it's going to be a absolute different show, state by state and even county by county within some states.
Mike, what are you seeing from your Canada franchises? Just because we have Cara on here, I'm just curious.
I was just going to ask that.
I think it's a little tighter in Canada, especially in Ontario. It's we had some campgrounds that were forced to close completely. Those are the majority of Canadian campgrounds are just to the opening stage now, so they've been watching intently. Some of them have attempted to open earlier just to give those returning snowbirds a place to go. With what the Prime Minister in Canada pretty much ordered everybody to get back to Canada from their snowbird status about a month earlier than normal. So we had this intense migration leaving the southern U.S. and headed north, and we had campgrounds all on the way, including our home campground here in Billings, Montana. The franchisee opened that up early because these people had nowhere to go as they traveled north about a month earlier, trying to get back in order to preserve their government health insurance. Typically was the threat there. You get back now and get across the border. So we also had to have campgrounds, and that was the attempt, was to open up early in Canada, so that these people that were coming back a month early would have a place to put those things and hunker down safely. And sometimes we were successful, sometimes we weren't. We'll find out more in the next week or so, just because now is about the time. A lot of them opened up on May 1st, so now is the time when we'll see what the rules are really going to be up in Canada.
What's interesting about the snowbirds too is that I was just reading an article today about, they got a bunch of them still in Arizona, Texas, and they're just waiting for an opportunity to go, back home. And so it'll be interesting to see what impact that has on the campground owners too, as far as, you still got a ton of snowbirds that are going to be traveling through. So there's potential site nights right there too that will be pretty much immediate, I would think.
Yeah, we have a friend down in Arizona that has a park, and he's got 70 people hanging out waiting to leave, and extended their stay at least a month right now as we speak. So it's definitely going to be an impact, a later flow of those folks coming north.
The majority of any parks that are open here in Canada now aren't permitted to take anyone less than a certain number of days. Like they're only allowing longer term stay, which is prohibiting a lot of those snowbirds from moving this way because they don't want to stay in a park for a month before they can move on.
Makes sense. So,
yeah, it's a regulatory issue for sure.
This is a question on Facebook. I think I wanted to talk a little bit to Chris too about some of this, just on the SBA loan process, the payment protection plan, program process. I guess, Chris, we'll work through some of that. Just give us a view of how frustrating that's been. I guess I've heard it's not a very easy process.
Well, when it first came out, it's changed about 4 or 5 times since then. So there's 2 separate programs, the PPP, or the payroll protection program, and then the economic disaster loan. both are through the SBA. And one of them you do on SBA's website, and that's the EIDL loan. You apply there. The latest application is really quite quick. It takes, probably 10 minutes if you have the information to submit it. In that, there's a $10,000 upfront or up to $10,000 grant that'll be given to you initially, and then the actual loan itself goes into effect takes a little bit longer. Now, the PPP program you do through an SBA approved bank, and for us, we use Independence Bank for our financing for the parks. We went to them, filled out the application, and then they processed it. We've personally, as a franchisee, received funds on the PPP program and also the $10,000 advance. We haven't received funds yet or an approval for the EIDL loan, but some people have. So things are starting to hit people's bank accounts as we speak. And both programs are available. It's not an either or scenario. I think there was a lot of confusion around it because, quite frankly, the SBA didn't have all the information out to the banks initially, so the banks were speculating on how these things were going to happen. So original applications went in differently than the secondary applications, and then third and fourth revisions of those things, kind of got to the place where we are now. And it's not a hard process. You just have to have a little bit of data ready for the application itself. But once you get it, it's really quite simple. Now, the challenge now is they are out of funding on the first phase of that rollout, which I think was about $500 billion. And so that money's gone. There will be, word is, another round of that. The key to
working
the PPP
it through Congress right now. Yeah.
Yeah, the PPP program is meant to keep people out of unemployment and keep people employed at our parks. And so the idea is to, that's a forgivable loan potentially. And again, the forgiveness portion of that is not actually written in stone yet from the SBA. So most of what you're seeing out there on the internet right now, the thing to know about that is that it's all speculation at this point. The banks don't actually have the documentation from the SBA yet on how that forgiveness is going to work. But they had 30 days to do that from the time they originated the program. So it should be coming out pretty soon. And then
I've just been reading so many frustrated posts from people that, they're working with their local banks, and it's just, hopefully they get some funding for this, more funding, and more people can take advantage of it.
Well, so that's been part of the controversy right down here that I've been reading about in the last few days, is that they haven't really put a requirement on it that you were impacted by the virus in order to get it, right? And so there's been like the national franchise chains that are taking $10 million, $20 million of this pie that's keeping it away from the smaller people. But I know Cara and I were talking about how it's different up there. So tell us how they're doing it up there that's different, and not saying that that's the right way, but.
So we have the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy. The government is subsidizing up to 75% or $847 per week, whichever is less, of employee payroll per employee. Businesses do have to prove a 30% reduction in revenue over I believe it's February, March, and April, or January, February, March. Which, I think most would be able to do. There is some issues with that in terms of, from a seasonal business standpoint, a lot of parks are closed January, February, March, April. So 30% of zero is still zero. So that is eliminating some access, and we're working to hopefully kind of get some seasonal, specifically seasonal business together. We are advocating and lobbying for those things right now. But yeah, there are some specific stipulations to access that subsidy specifically, and it's not a loan program. It is subsidized.
Just opinion-wise, I'm curious, would you have rather had it be an open to everyone thing up there? Or?
I don't think it's that simple.
No, of course not. It's absolutely not. Yeah.
I think, no, I don't think so. I think some qualifying requirements are necessary. I think certain industries are maybe in a harder place than others, and so those standards are well-founded.
I kind of agree. Like, it's tragic that some of the campgrounds don't qualify with the 30% and being closed. But I think that's a pretty, I'm not saying the percentage is necessarily perfect, but I think you should be able to have to prove that you had a hardship, I think, to take advantage of it.
Yeah, agreed.
I mean, I would say that we had we did a webinar last week with the deputy director of the SBA office here in New Jersey, and he was very specific in talking to the campground owners as to what they qualified for, the documentation that was required, and every bank in New Jersey finally was approved to be an SBA lender, because that was a lot of questions that were going back and forth. Was many of the banks that people who were their primary banks may not have been an SBA lender, but the SBA was able to get every bank in New Jersey, recognized as an SBA lender. So that certainly helped us in New Jersey with some of the loan applications. And, hopefully, as we told everyone, the money did run out last Thursday, but that, we are certainly, pushing for Congress to, put additional funding together, and that, they should have their loan applications ready so that if the money does become available again, that they're ready to go and submit their applications. So that's kind of something that, we are encouraging our members to do.
So I'm just going to randomly, as we continue our conversation, call out people and just see if I can get their attention. So I'm just going to let Scott Foos here talk from Horizon if he wants to, as we continue our discussion, just some of the things that maybe he's hearing from his parks if he wants to join the conversation. But go ahead with whoever wanted to continue while we wait on that, see if he wants to join in.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to, one of the things that I want, everyone who's listening to at least hear this, that, your state associations right now are really working very hard for our campgrounds in each of the states. And that if you are not a member of your state campground association, I highly encourage you to do so. I mean, like I said, for us, we're putting out updates almost daily to the members as to what's available to them, webinars that they can go on to, anything that we can, any information that we can give to them that might help them, get through the next couple weeks. And, for somebody like us in New Jersey, Brian, as you very well know, and Irene too, we had to cancel our conference. Yep. So, like, not only are we trying to help the campgrounds get through this, but we're also trying to work through, our statewide associations who are, we're all 501c6s, and none of us qualified for any of the money. But, we had a huge income loss, with the cancellation of our conference. And, it's going to impact us going forward because, that's marketing dollars that we need to use, that we need to have out there, especially for the next, the next couple months, even going into next year. So, just support your campground associations. I think it's really important for people to understand just how hard everyone is working for the campgrounds in each of their states.
Yeah, and I mean, that's a great, the state association has been working nonstop, and then in a lot of states, things are changing county to county. So not only do they have, working with state officials, but they're also working with local officials. And some states have 90 plus counties. And so they're working that many officials. I don't know how you guys sleep at night. So.
Ben, I just want to jump in and say that I've had state association leaders say to me, if you're talking to campground owners and they're running into county problems, bring the county problems to the state association. Yeah. Don't try to negotiate on your own. Joanne and other state leaders have teams of professionals, and that's why it's such a great network. So I just wanted to encourage that. And thanks, Joanne, for all that you're doing.
I think Scott unmuted himself for a second, but go ahead, Cara.
I was just going to say, I think now more than ever kind of proves how valuable association membership can be between advocacy and kind of communication, but also just getting your hands on actual information and accessing really, really knowledgeable individuals who can kind of have your back in a broader sense and are there for you and care about their members.
Yeah.
Big deal right now.
Hey guys, this is Scott with Horizon Outdoor Hospitality Group. We're a third-party professional management company managing only RV resorts in the industry. And to speak to that comment about state associations, we manage 4 properties currently in California, and Camp Cal now with Diana Kelly has been amazing along those same lines, dealing with each county. We've got 2 of our counties that are closed, or that have closed short-term camping less than 30 days, and try to navigate that. Our hats are off to her, and also Brian Schaefer at Taco, and all the other great state associations that we work with. It's what we're seeing, to answer Brian's quick question, what we're seeing across our portfolio is virtually much of what you guys are seeing and saying as well. We have 5 or 6 properties right now that are closed for short-term camping. So, working through the process of canceling reservations that were on the books, which were dwindling anyways prior to the closure, but we still had, occupancies maybe in the 20-30% range for properties that we're seeing, maybe a traditional spring break crowd that we had to cancel. But we're hearing from our guests that they're excited and anxious to get back. And what our big task now for all of our managers is working through what are those changes that we're going to be making at the properties to ensure that guest confidence is there to come back when they're ready to. Like you guys were saying, Patrick with High Trip B had some great examples for us to work through as well. But it's all about communicating that to our guests to help them feel comfortable with what we're doing and to get them to come back as soon as they can. Yeah,
and I think that's something, we've been hearing throughout this whole thing is communication is so key. You have to communicate with your campers, workers. If you don't have a good communication plan in place, then it's probably going to hurt you down the road. So
I think another thing to note too and understand right now, because so many people are at home or working from home, a lot of people are on social media a lot more so than even usual, and so Facebook even reported that that activity is up 50% here recently.
Same with LinkedIn, yeah.
It's really important that we all to take care of the Facebook algorithm and make sure that we're posting enough and relevant information to our guests and to our potential customers, so that we can stay in contact with these folks through this time. If we lack on our posts, they won't see it. I mean, the average right now I think is only about 5.5% of what we post anyways is actually seen. So it's really important that we get a consistent message out there to folks on a regular basis.
Yeah, absolutely. And I unmuted Jane Cohen and Bob Zagami, who are on the call too. If either one of those people want to jump in, I know they have some valuable insights they could probably share with us. But
I know one of the other questions I've seen is just about the reservation and cancellation policies. I think the majority of park owners are probably refunding fully or trying to rebook people down the road. I guess, Chris, what's been your policy at your park, and what have you seen from maybe other park owners you've talked with?
Yeah, so as a KOA franchise park, one of the beautiful things that KOA did for us, and I can't speak for folks that are not affiliated, but they compensated their franchisees by taking care of those cancellation fees and also the deposits that we had for the months of March and April, which was a huge thing as this was all coming about. For KOA to step up and do that. So that was a huge benefit to us as a franchisee personally, and and all the other franchisees. But our policy during that time is full refunds, no cancellation fees for March and April. Post April 30th, we're back to our normal cancellation policy, outside of the recommended idea that if somebody is under a stay-at-home order and can't, get to you and stay, assuming your state's open, maybe their state's not, scenario, then it's still at our discretion, what we do there. But, there's back to basically the national reservation policy post, May 1st. But to have that help from KOA for March and April was huge. The amount of money was insane.
Joanne, I guess, are you hearing from park owners questions about their policies, I guess? What?
I'm not hearing from park owners, but boy, am I hearing from campers. Wanting to know whether or not there is a statewide policy on refunds and credits. And here's what I tell everybody, it's an individual business decision as to how it is that they want to refund or credit or, whatever it is. We're no different than any other service industry as far as what their policies and procedures are. And so as a state association, we certainly can't dictate to the campgrounds as to what their policies need to be. We ask the campgrounds to be fair, but we're not going down that road with our members. We just, and that is my response to everyone who's asking me, is that each individual business has to make its own decision as to what their policies are.
Yeah, and those are really tough decisions because as a campground owner, you're looking at the books and trying to do goodwill towards the camper. And, I think everybody would like to refund camper, reservations or, if they booked it, be able to refund that. But in some situations, that may not be the case. So it really is an individual business decision. And I'm glad I'm not having to make all of those decisions. So
I think the big thing too is just to put ourselves in our customers' shoes and try to be empathetic to their situation. And a $10 cancellation fee or a one night cancellation fee, whatever your policy is it may hurt us presently. Financially, we'd like to hold on to that money, of course, but at the same time, we don't want to lose a customer long term. By essentially making them angry that we didn't refund their stay due to these unforeseen circumstances. So it's not like people are making up excuses right now. It's mostly related to what's going on. So I think we take care of them now, they'll come back to us later is really important.
And this is Scott Foos, and I promise I'll mute myself after this. But to echo what Chris was saying, and I know that Peter Pelland wrote an article about this recently too. One of the things that we've rolled out across our portfolio is issuing a 110% credit to our guests, or offering that in lieu of a 100% refund of their payment card. We're giving them the option, and we've extended that through May 31st actually. And that's been really well received so far. I'd say that about 25% of our cancellations are taking us up on that, and we're hoping to keep some cash balances for our clients in the bank, and also provide this extra perk for our guests that are likely going to come back and stay with us anyways. They just don't really know when yet, but that's worked really well too.
Yeah. Okay.
Jane, did you have anything to add? You unmuted yourself, I see.
There's another issue out there that I have some clients that are having this problem, is that we collect deposits all winter. And
you're really low, Jane. I don't know. Like, I can hear you a little bit, but
okay.
You seem kind of muffled.
Is that any better?
Not really.
Not really. Okay, I'm not quite sure how to solve this problem at the moment. So
just yell into the mic then, and it'll be like you're talking normal.
Okay. Can everyone hear me now?
Yes, that's better.
One problem that I am seeing out there is campgrounds typically take deposits all winter, especially the parks that are closed, and they use that as winter money. And now they're getting crunched with refunding money, which they want to do, but cash flow is cash flow. And if, you can't get water from a rock. So I think that I have suggested with most of my clients that everybody sit down and do a cash flow analysis for at least maybe to get you through Memorial Day, so you can see exactly when and where you're going to run out of cash. Because right now, a lot of people are giving money back and not taking any money in. And the exercise of doing that cash flow analysis has actually helped a lot of my clients' sanity, because they realize exactly how long they have to wait for the PPP money, or to wait for the emergency funds, or to negotiate with their own banks and so forth. And if anybody needs like a sample cash flow analysis worksheet to do that, they can email me and I can send them one that they can customize for themselves and work off of.
And maybe you could give that to Ben and he could put it up on Woodalls too, just so people can see it, if you don't mind.
No,
I mean, I think it's really important that this disaster loan stuff and the PPP program, everybody apply for that just in case you need it. And, you know, the other side of that is, you know, working with your local bank that's, you know, we haven't really touched on it, but, you know, going to interest only for a period of time on your current mortgages that you have on the property, getting a line of credit if you've never had one, so that you can float things if you need to. And then also, you know, renegotiating your, you know, the terms of your current loans potentially, you know, if you have to, you know, rates right now are rock bottom. And so, you know, you might be able to drop your interest rate a little bit. And in the end, I mean, you know, for us, it's saving us as a franchisee a tremendous amount of money on a monthly basis right now. And then there's also worst case scenario if you're really tight to, you know, potentially do a deferment, but banks obviously would prefer that you go to interest only first. I think those are all things that, you know, most people should be doing right now, because we don't know the end of, you know, when the end is of this.
Yeah. Jane, you were gonna say something else.
In regards to the deferment, I have had clients that have been very successful with like a 6-month deferment for principal and interest. And some are refinancing because rates have dropped. And so this may be an opportunity to get some better financing. But I will submit Ben, I'll submit that cash flow to you, and everybody can just customize it for themselves to work for them. But I do think that everyone also needs to think about if they don't have the money to refund right now, they might want to think of alternatives that they can offer people, such as offering the suggestion that you just got about offering 110% rather than the face value of the deposit. Others have been telling folks that they will definitely refund money. However, they're refunding money 7 days from the date of their arrival. So they are just prioritizing the order in which deposits are being refunded.
Makes sense, because things are changing so rapidly, and then you just kind of keep them there, and then maybe they change their minds and decide to keep it if the situation gets better.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Okay.
All right. We got anything else, Ben? Anybody else want to throw something in here? Joanne, anything else from New Jersey that we should be kept aware of? We probably want to cut this off about 12:30 or so, I imagine.
Nope,
Yeah.
just, you know, I'll keep you guys up to date as to, you know, what's happening in New Jersey. You know, we just continue to have a dialogue, like you said, with our legislators, and, you know, continue to communicate to our members as to what's going on and provide as much information to them as we possibly can to help them get through this, and, you know, encourage them to continue to communicate with their campers, you know, so that they know. You know, a lot of our campgrounds are supposed to be opening on April 15th and then May 1st, and, you know, so we're getting a lot of questions as to whether or not, you know, they're going to be allowed to do that right now. And, you know, until the governor lifts his stay-at-home mandate, we're kind of, you know, just we're in a wait and see. But thank you for putting this all together. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I found this so exciting because I think this is the most people I've talked with and seen their faces online. So
I was just happy that I got to do my hair this morning. See that?
yeah. Next week, I think I'm going to wear a suit. So professional. So
Standards.
Irene, anything else from you that you wanted to mention?
I think that from the insurance standpoint, I would say that do call up and communicate. We're seeing that carriers are very receptive if you're giving feedback about a reduction in gross receipts at your business, but it's a conversation that you have to have because gross receipts do affect your liability premium. So, and that's something that you need to go ahead and do, initiate that yourself. Also the same thing with cash flow and payments. If you have insurance payments that are out there, whether it's your business insurance or your health insurance, most of the insurance departments have given the industry directives to be very flexible with those. It's going to vary by state, but call, ask for help. I know that we've been doing everything we can at Marshall and Sterling to help our clients get through this difficult time, and just like calling your utilities, et cetera. So just keep trying to find creative ways to get through it, and we'll get through it together.
Chris,
yeah.
I don't really have much. I just say stay strong and try to take care of people like we would want to be treated, and focus on getting things rolling again, as quick as we can, once time comes. So be poised to launch, basically.
Take care of your mental health.
Yes.
I know we've all been working long hours, and but it's important to like take a break, take a breather, go outside, walk around. If you have to hit stuff. Take an axe to something. Whatever
you live in a campground, go yell at a tree.
Yeah, go yell at a tree. Cara, do you have anything?
No, I think I'll echo what everybody else said. I think kind of rolling with the punches at this point is the state we're all in, and there's lots of work to be done, and I think there's going to be kind of a long-term negative impact for some from this in terms of, from a business operation standpoint. So yeah, I think it's important that we're just kind of providing supports wherever possible and mitigating those consequences.
Cara, I read that document that you put together, and part of it was from a mental health perspective that Ben brought up. Do you have somebody that you got that information from as a resource that maybe we could bring on?
No, well, so I used information from Anxiety Canada. So it's a nonprofit. But I do have a couple of people in my own social circle that I might that are great resources that work in mental health. I could potentially talk
Ben,
to.
what do you think? Can we bring one on next week if she can get a hold of one?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, we can get a hold of one. I know they're busy too. They got to keep everyone de-stressed. So
I think from our perspective, Cara, if you could find one and they're willing to come on, then we're willing to have them next week.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Because that's a big important thing that I think kind of gets pushed by the wayside sometimes in this is just mental health in general. So.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So, well, thanks everyone for coming on. Thanks everyone for watching. I hope we, spread some valuable information and that you'll want to come back next week. Brian, you got anything to say?
Yeah, we'll be here next Monday. It'll be me, Ben, Cara will be here again. We'll have probably 2 or 3 different guests, hopefully the mental health person, but Ben will sort through that and kind of decide who we can bring on, and we'll see you then. So that's all I got to say. Thanks, guys. I appreciate everybody joining.
Thanks again.
Yeah, thanks.
All right.
Thank
Stay
you.
well, everyone. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.